It's not just the business, Remy. It's life and business together created that success.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and today you may have heard of the brothers of borrowing. I have the cousins of coaching on the call today. How's it going, Cheviron cousins?
Hello, hello.
Excellent. Has anyone ever called you that?
No, you're the first.
Yeah.
No.
I just wanted to get that in writing that I was the first because you're going to make millions. We've got Austin Cheviron and Nate Cheviron. Just to give you a little bit about their bio, the reason why it's important for you to listen to these two talking. When Austin was a sole agent, he sold over 88 homes in 1 year, working less than 40 hours a week. When they joined forces together, as many as 500 homes in a year with 20 agents. And now they spend most of their time teaching others how to do these things. So Austin, let's start with you. How'd you get into this industry and how did you make it? How long did it take you to get up to 88 homes as a solo agent?
Yeah. So, fortunately and unfortunately, my father was a real estate agent. Yeah. So if anybody here has a parent that's a real estate agent, they understand what I'm saying, which is it's an interesting life when your parent sells real estate and you're a child, because then you get to learn what you live today. And so since I was 6, my dad's been a real estate agent. Until I was 21. So 15 years, I watched and studied real estate agents.
So you kind of said that tongue in cheek when you're talking about being the kid of a real estate agent, but I'm assuming, you guys have kids.
Yep.
Are you intentional at every stage of the game, whether they're, 5, 6 years old, teenager, like what are you doing different now because you learned from your own experience?
So if you're a real estate agent's kid, more than likely you were the last one picked up.
Yeah.
Okay. See, there's a laugh. Yeah. You were the last one picked up all the time.
Yeah. Have you make it tougher? So are you
we're
doing that for your kids too? Or are you like, hey, I don't want that for my kid? Or like, how do you handle that? How do you?
Yes, that doesn't happen anymore. So, at 20, it would have been 25, I made a decision, but when we had our first child, that I was going to be home for dinner every night at 5:00. No appointments on Friday evenings and no appointments on Sundays.
Yeah.
And that was my pact to my family, because one of the things with real estate agents, our families never know when to expect us. And that's the hardest part.
Well, one more question, and I want to transition to what you guys are doing with teams. But like when you're a solo agent, I think some people are hearing that because they're a solo agent and they're doing half that and spending twice the time on it, right?
Yep.
40 or less homes and 80 hours a week. What are, and I know these are probably coaching techniques that you use, but just, from the granular or from the overhead view, what are like basic things that someone can start doing to get closer to that kind of lifestyle?
Yeah. It's funny because that's exactly what we had to figure out when we decided to help people, is what the heck did I do to create this level of success? Because before that, it wasn't good, man. It was like selling 6 homes on welfare. Life wasn't good. And so how did you get there? So we had to unpackage it, and it's actually called our Agent Success Program now. And it's 12 pieces. What's really interesting, it's not just the business, Remy. It's life and business together created that success. Okay.
So what's a basic? Give me one of the keys on this success journey. Does it have anything to do with not answering your phone after 5, setting the right expectations? I'm assuming those are on there.
All the above. So on the personal side, we work through understanding what's important to you in your life, which is goals, and we talk about habits. We work on managing your financials, because if you don't have your financials right, you're chasing everything. And then we understand time management, how to plan a calendar. So one thing we train people on, how to train a whole year in advance. Imagine that as a real estate agent, training a whole year in advance and knowing what I'm going, where I'm going, why I'm going, that my family's taken care of, that I am, and my business. And so there's just so many aspects of that. But it's really, you got to get your life and business working together if you want to be successful.
So cousin Nate, how did you fit into this? You were walking around and you're like, I'm good at this too. We should
dragged in kicking and screaming,
Okay. Yeah, how'd that happen?
Long story short, right? Austin and I grew up next door to each other, big family and best friends growing up, always talked about doing something together. Coincidentally, we were at a crossroads in our careers at the same time. So I spent, after college, I spent about 10 years in nation's largest recruiting and consulting firm. So I specialize in building and leading teams. And so I was at a crossroads. So was Austin. We said, hey, let's do something together. I got into real estate. It made sense to join the family business, with Uncle Tom and Austin. And
before we did that, we climbed this mountain together.
We did. Yeah. So the mountain right behind you. So Memorial Day of 2019, just to put a timestamp on it, right? We summited Mount Hood. That's in Oregon. And so that was kind of the start, right? Of where we are. So coincidentally enough, I mean, we literally, he was at a crossroads. I was at a crossroads. We go on this trip. We're like, let's go. Let's make something happen.
What made you guys want to climb the mountain?
Austin had a dream.
I literally just had a dream that I climbed.
A dream that you did it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had a dream that you climbed a mountain. That specific mountain or just a mountain?
No, just a mountain. Okay. And so when I had a dream, I'm like, well, I'm going to go do this now. And so my buyer's agent at the time, I said, hey, go find me the 3 tallest, safest mountains. I'm going to climb one. We've never climbed a hill. We're in Indiana. I mean, there ain't no hills here.
So tell me, I've done a little bit of research on this, so I know what you're saying, but I imagine if no one's ever looked into like climbing a mountain, what do you mean by tallest, but also safest? How do you even judge what a safe mountain is?
It's by death count on the mountain. So how many people have died for the height of the mountain?
And what's the death count for Mount Hood?
I can't remember off.
It's not 0.
No, it's
not 0. I want to say it was in the low hundreds.
Yeah.
What do people die from?
We almost died from about 3 things that day. So 1, you can fall off the mountain.
Okay.
2, you can smell sulfur and you could pass out. 3, you could fall in the devil's kitchen, which I didn't know was a thing. You can fall down into a hole, disappear. 4, you can fall into a crevasse. 5, you can step on snow that a tree fell down, the snow comes over it. You step in it, you fall down into a hole, and the snow comes over you, and you just disappear.
So all these things, going into it, what are you are you just going, is the first answer to not having this happen going slow? Like, how do you look out for all these things?
No, it's actually worse than that, because when we got up to the mountain, our guide said, hey, we have to go fast today because it's a horrible weather day and it's not safe to be on the mountain.
It was literally a blizzard the day that we were going up the mountain.
So it only took 1 day to get up this mountain.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And you got all the way down in the same day.
Yep.
Man,
he says you got to go fast because it's not safe to be on the mountain.
Mm-hmm. And literally, as we were walking up, people were walking back down because they were saying it's too nasty.
We're not doing it
up there.
Yeah. So
Nate, how did you get roped into his dream? It was his dream. You didn't have to go.
Yeah. He was, so he was training and everything for it. And I'm like, I'll train with you, and I'm like, as a little cousin, right? We're a couple years apart. I'm like, I will crush you on anything that you do.
That's great, man. You know what? It's so not a mountain, but we went up to the dunes or down in the dunes, my cousin and I, and we went to one that was called a bear dune. It was 1,000-foot steep dune.
Okay.
And we ran down it and it took seconds. And like you're jumping and you're going out like you're going out a foot and going down 10 feet. That's how steep this thing is.
Yeah.
And while you're running down it, you see people crawling up on the sides. And as you're going down, you're like, we made a mistake, but we can't stop. And you get down to the bottom of that and you look up and you're like, okay, we got to climb it, which is the opposite of the mountain. Like, you don't even have to go. Like, you're at the bottom to start. And so you go through this training and you're psychologically preparing yourself to do this. What's the kind of training that you go through to climb the mountain?
Well, so how do you train to climb a mountain in Indiana?
Yeah. Well, you tell.
So I use the stair climber. The thing you see all the women on normally doing the steps that I thought was really cute. That ain't no joke, man.
Yeah.
That is no joke.
Yeah. So like how long, like for like long periods of time?
Yeah. So what I would do is I'd take a backpack. I'd go put 40 pounds in a backpack and I'd put it on me to represent what I was carrying. And then I bought an oxygen restrictor mask to emulate the altitude.
Were you doing this at a local gym?
Yeah.
You look like an astronaut in the middle of a local.
This was before COVID too, right? Where masks weren't normal.
Can you imagine what people thought of me?
Who's that guy and what's he going to do? Well, I imagine every time you got off that Stairmaster, you had somebody asking you like what you're doing. You probably were able to share that story with a lot of people.
Yep. And they knew what I was doing. I'd call them the locals.
Yeah.
So like, oh, there's Austin putting his pounds in, putting his mask on. He's going to go to town for a couple hours going up the stair climber.
And so, Nate, did you follow in suit? Did you do this as well?
Yeah. Not that extreme, So I've always, I would just do like, just on like a 30-inch, like a box jumping platform, just step up it, 1,000 times or something like that, holding dumbbells. Yeah.
So when you got to the mountain and the day that you're going, they're like, probably shouldn't do this, but here we go. You're thinking, I've done all this training for it. I'm mentally prepared. I want to follow through. In that moment, were there times as you were climbing where you were thinking, we should just head back, this isn't worth it? Or was it like, I'm doing this?
Yeah, there was two goals. One was to not die. We're both married with kids. Would not have been cool. So don't die. Number one goal. Number two goal was to summit.
Okay.
So keep first things first. First goal is don't die.
Yeah.
As we were going up, we saw these people coming down, as Nate said, and I asked the guide, who was a 25-year-old crazy guy, I asked the guy, I go, hey, why are all those people going down? He goes, I don't know. Why don't you go ask them? And so we started asking them like, hey, did you make it to the top already? And they said, no, it's too dangerous. And so then we looked at our guide. Nate, what our guy said, you remember?
Like they said, hey, it's too nasty up there. That's literally what they said coming down. And our guide's like, I like it nasty. We're going to keep going.
He said, did you come all the way out here from Indiana to turn around?
Ooh, that's a good guide right there.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe.
But I mean, you guys are here. When you said 3 times you almost died, are you just being facetious, or do you remember 3 separate times where it was like close call?
Yeah. I remember 3 times.
Yeah. So you made it happen. And now, what year was this?
2019. It was specifically Memorial Day of 2019.
Right before COVID. And I don't know if I said this in the intro, but your guys' market's Fort Wayne, which is one of our smaller markets as it pertains to real producers. How many people in the Fort Wayne metro?
300, Nate?
Yeah, 300-ish.
300,000?
Mm-hmm.
So from these small town boys, Fort Wayne, Indiana, coming in, climbing that mountain, and you summit, and you make it happen, and now you guys can share your experience. How much of that experience plays into the coaching, whether you bring it up or not?
I'd say a lot of it, right? I mean, it's just a matter of, okay, you set a goal, no matter how hard it is, right? You commit to it, and you have to commit because it's difficult, and it's a very simple trek, right? You take 100,000 steps up for a few hours until you summit the mountain. That's it, right? And but it's tough. You have to navigate certain obstacles along the way. You have different types of terrain. You have really steep portions, not so steep portions. You need a guide, right? We were saying to our guide one time, it was like right when Free Solo came out, if you remember that, with Alex. And like, man, yeah, Alex, I forget his last name. Yeah, so I'm like, man, that guy is crazy, like free soloing El Capitan, and he's like, you think he's crazy? Try hooking yourself up to 2 guys who've never climbed a mountain before for $500. And sometimes that's true, right? Sometimes they're like, okay, we got to partner with some people that have never done this before, and but they need a guide. They need someone to partner with, link arms with them, and take them on their journey. And so very much.
And you feel like that's what you guys are doing, because now you formed the team aspect, you formed coaching teams. In the pre-show, we talked a little bit about this new wave of real estate, and it's new to me. Maybe it's not as new to someone who's involved like you guys are, but you're starting to see these teams that are going cross state lines and calling themselves a team. So describe to me, what's funny is if I call this a phenomenon, we're going to look back and it feels like it's going to be the normal thing in real estate pretty soon, but it's pretty new now. So describe to me what's happening with these teams.
Yeah. So to do that, let me go backwards to go forwards, because our viewers, if they've been around a little bit, they'll get this. So 30 years around real estate agents. 30 years ago, there were no teams. 20 years ago, probably not, maybe one or two. 10 years ago, definitely started seeing teams, and now everybody's a team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why? Over half the agents are on a team somewhere.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Personally, I believe it's to circumvent the company dollar that the companies charge. So the team leader now believes they can make money. Okay. The team leader can act as the brokerage and make money, and then the agents on the team can pay their boss less. But what happens is you actually have a huge negative effect, and this is what I've seen over the last 5 years, why we take this really personally, is now what happens, because the broker's getting paid less, they're not providing as much value, right? They're not providing the training, they're not providing all these pieces because they're not getting paid. And so now that goes on to the team leader. Well, let me tell you, the team leader has no clue what they're doing.
Let me pause you there for a second. So you're saying, and this is based on your perception, because they're making less and less dollars. Like, I've talked to some owners of some massive companies here in Indy that are saying we're creating title companies and mortgage companies just because we're not making enough money per agent, which is another side to this that's crazy to me.
Yep.
But if you're saying, hey, all these guys are going to teams, so we're going to put that on the responsibility of the lead person on the team, is that truly what's happening? Like, if I'm not on a team and I'm a solo agent, is there no training for me?
No, I wouldn't say there's no training, but we got to understand that compensation drives behavior.
Yep.
Okay. So over the last 2 decades, real estate brokerage's incomes have gone down. Because instead of me paying my brokerage X amount of dollars, I pay them X divided by 2 or 4 now. Okay, that's how this world's working. And when there's less money coming into the owner can't put more stuff out. They have to take things off of their plate, let alone inflation and everything else that kicked up. I mean, people are hurting today. And what I think what's really hurting, it's 2 people now. It's the team leader, and then the agents on the team are hurting. Because the models are changing, and these team leaders, they're forming one either because they were the best one that could sell houses, which doesn't make them good to lead other people.
Okay, true.
Okay, this is our line. So it doesn't mean they can lead other people, but they might.
People are making the decisions to save money and to be a part of a team, get the marketing, but the person who's sitting in the training seat is not necessarily equipped to do so.
Bingo.
Correct.
With all great intentions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sad part.
I imagine that's the best type of client for you guys, though, because you come right in and you fit that need.
So before we do it, one of the things at Cheviron Coaching, we don't train and coach anybody on something we haven't done.
Right.
And so we started to build our team out in our model, and that's where Nate really comes in with his background. Nate, you want to tell him what you do.
Yeah. So I'm a nerd at heart, right? You know, I love studying things, just how do they work? I have a physics degree. And so when I went into the recruiting consulting world, I would go into your big Fortune 100 companies, right? And I would help them build their teams. But not only did I do that from a practical standpoint, but I would also study how they made decisions, why they did the things that they did, how is the same skill set, how did this team differ from that team? And so I took all of those skills, I adopted it, and then I translated it into real estate and built it around Austin. And so whenever people join our actual real estate team, you know, and what's happening in the industry, if someone's joining your team, like the team lead feels obligated that they have to give them something tangible, right? Like I have to give them a lead. I have to give them all of these widgets and shiny objects, which costs a lot of money. And so what we believe is that we give them a great culture, just an environment to thrive in with a high level of accountability and coaching attached to it, some systems that they can apply to help optimize their business, and then the coaching, right? So culture, systems, and coaching. So if we just really lean on those 3 levers And now me as a team lead, I'm actually more of a coach, right? A coach and a mentor, because I'm still practicing to a degree. And so, but if I can come in and coach them and link arms with them and not give them something necessarily tangible, and I teach them how to fish versus give them a fish, they're now going to thrive. And so that's our model, right? That's why we have top agents in the area join our team. They don't need necessarily, they don't need to learn how to, write a contract. Right. They need help. Hey, how do I get my life in order so my business isn't running it?
Let's jump back into the specific conversation of these teams then. Now that you've defined that, how and why are we seeing teams crossing state lines and calling themselves, I could have a team and I've got team members in Tennessee, California, and everywhere in between?
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, it's because what I believe is happening. To tie it back to the dollar, right? Compensation drives behavior. So if I just go to a local market like Fort Wayne and I'm shelling out all this money, I need more agents, right? Well, I only have so many agents in the Fort Wayne market that I can grab. So now let me go start another market. And if I have a deal with a third-party referral company or a third-party company like a Zillow or whoever, and now I can start working out deals with them in these other markets, right?
What's the incentive? Like, why am I incentivized? If I'm in Arizona, in Scottsdale, why am I incentivized to work with a team out of Fort Wayne instead of just giving referral fees? Like, why actually be on that team?
Systems, processes, unity, culture. So because I can join something bigger than me, they can help guide me. And it doesn't mean just your team would be in Fort Wayne. These teams have teams all over the place. We coach and train a team that wants to have 20 agents in every state.
This is fascinating. I don't even know where to go because it's so new. All right. So now once you've established your team, if you're growing your team in that aspect, what's funny is like these teams are still under the umbrella of brokerages most of the case. Like they're not independents in many cases. They're still a part. What are they still getting from their brokerage? If the brokerage is now going into the branding seat, not the trainer seat, what all do they get from being a part of any one brokerage?
I look at it as more of like a shared risk model. Right. So now I'm using it for legal and accounting support, things like that. And then now I can actually run the operational side of the business for the team. And then my team is the actual real estate like operations. And then the brokerage itself is, I just use it for, legal support, high level branding, just to tie my license to it. And then they're the ones who are plugging into all the different states. Now I can expand my team out nationally.
So if I wanted to do something similar to what Real Producers does, my options are I can go create it myself. I can have my own brokerage. I can have my own Real Producers, or I can partner with Real Producers. They have the systems. They have the people. They can help me get there faster without all the liability, because I'm probably not going to be the one getting sued. You are.
I gotcha. Makes sense. I don't like the sound of that.
Sure.
We're using Real Producers as the example, but I can use
yeah. Well, let me say this, Remington. So maybe some words of wisdom for people who are trying to do this, right? They're trying to, I have a team here in a local market, and then maybe 2 hours away, say Fort Wayne to Indianapolis. Okay, it's a 2-hour drive. So if I'm trying to do a team there, then I want to go try to do across state line. What gets really hard is when you try to make them strategically aligned, that, hey, in this market, we're trying to do these X's and O's, and therefore we're going to copy and paste the same X's and O's in the other market. It doesn't always happen the right way, especially if you go to Fort Wayne, Indiana to Miami, Florida, right? It's just totally different, or San Diego, California. But if I make them culturally aligned, right, all of our expectations are the same, or, hey, people like us do things like this, right? I think Seth Godin is the one who said that. If all of us are the same, to where I can go into any market and we're all kind of cut from the same fabric or the same cloth, now we have something going. And so it's more relationship and partnership based as opposed to the X's and O's. And so creating that through expectations and accountability, creating that is what's essential when you do cross state lines.
Good explanation. I wanted to shift gears real quick and talk about the event you guys did last year. I didn't tell you I was going to be asking about this, but I've been thinking about it. And you guys are coming from being real estate, realtors, real estate team, now also in the coaching realm and coaching realtors. And last year, you guys decided to do an event. And we, Real Producers, we're big on events. We're big on social events. We're big on charity events, all the above. And because I live in Indiana, I was able to see a lot of the marketing that was going on, and a lot of the people from the Midwest that I know went to this event and got a lot of value out of it. And I want you to share, if you're cool with it, like what the event was. Did you charge people to go to it? Why did so many people show up? And what were you able to do with the content from it? Are you guys able to share that with me?
You bet your butt. So for about the last 3 years, we had a lot of people asking us, hey, how are you guys doing this with your team? Okay. Like, just how are you doing it? And we were on podcasts for an hour. We were on webinars. We were doing all this for an hour. Well, you can't explain it in an hour. It's a whole company. And so privately for 2 years, we held our teams program, which we trained people on 6 different aspects on how to run a real estate team. And we did this privately for 2 years. We take about 20 individuals at a time, agents, team leaders, brokerage owners, even people outside the industry that have companies, and we're putting them together. Well, the problem with that is it was a specific day on a specific time, and it was over this specific period. We charged $2,500 a person, great material, massive results for it. And we just realized that we weren't serving the masses by operating small. So we worked our model, we figured it out, and then we said, hey, let's have a conference. Let's invite 80 of our friends all over the country to come in, and we'll produce it and film it so that way we can produce it and anybody can have this content at any time. We charged all of our friends $0 for showing up. Okay, which is pretty cool. We put $2 billion in sales in one room. So imagine that.
These are all top producers.
Top producers all over the country. Put them in a room and we trained them for 2 days on all of our systems and processes. And that was on the first week of November, the first week of January, with the help of our production team. We then were able to launch that out to the world, which is a great feat for us that we can help scale this team model that's high impact and low expense model is kind of how we operate. High impact, really good work for everybody with their lives and their business on a low expense model. And so now we can share it with everybody.
Awesome. That's a great way to do things. And it's not it's probably not a normal way to get the content on film. And you guys had a live audience of people that wanted that. I think it's brilliant. And now you, and as of January 1st, you guys are actually able to get that out to anyone who joins, right?
Yep. We have that course. And we produced another course last year as well, which was like on the agent. So the plan is to have a series of programs, right? That really help people along their journey, right? From the success side of things, like, hey, how do I really get my business and life in order? How do I go from, say, 20 homes a year to 50 homes a year working less? Right. And then we have the team aspect. Okay. If I want to moving from production to people is one of the hardest things that you're ever going to do. And so how do I do that the right way and not spend a lot of money to do it and impact people like I really want to? We're going to look to do a leadership program, something around wealth, and then with the main thing, what everyone's trying to figure out is, hey, how do I get out of this industry? And, how do I actually retire?
That's so funny. What you just said reminded me of a quote about buying boats. People say the two best days of owning a boat is the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Yeah,
I feel like for a lot of people, that's how it is with real estate. The two best days in real estate is when you get in and when you get out.
Yeah, for sure.
I look at the journey of like, how do we take you from the mountain over here at the bottom, and we take you all the way up to the peak, which was 88 transactions, and then we take you back out to 0. So that's the journey, is how do we help you go up and then help you go out?
Well, that's where I want to end. We got a couple minutes here, and it's a 2-part question, and we'll start with Austin. Then I want Nate, your perspective from a team's, it's about habits. Okay. So I want Austin, your answer to be about a habit. If you can think back to your solo agent days. Yep. And Nate, I want you to think about the habits of a team leader or someone who's in the leadership role of a team. And my question that I wrote down when you were talking earlier is that people they have hard habits to break. You said some people, there are some very hard habits to break. And as you've been coaching people the last several years, I'm sure there's a commonality of certain habits. What do you think the hardest habits are to break as a single solo agent?
It's funny. I'm going to bring my dad up in this because he's my mentor, been around forever. My dad told me a handful of years ago, he goes, the one thing that you do that I've watched is you get people to change their habits. He didn't say anything else. He just said you get them to change their habits. And then if I go back to when I was a child, he could tell me as he would walk around the office, he would say, they'll be successful, they'll be successful, they'll be successful. And I said, why, Dad? And he said, one thing, he goes, they show up. And so if you ask me, how do I get a normal real estate agent to become successful? What habit do I change? It's their habit of showing up. And how they show up, and there's 100 things behind that. All the mental issues, the physical issues, the financial issues, that's the whole program. But if we can get you to show up, now I can get you to do the work. And then once I get you to do the work, then I'll optimize the work.
Let me get into the weeds on that physically showing up. If I'm not physically showing up, because I hear you say that, and I know it's true, but if I'm not physically showing up, what am I doing that's more important, or better yet, probably not more important? What am I doing if I'm not showing up? What is this?
Most of the time you're not doing anything, and you're going to say, well, I don't want to. This is why I got in real estate, so I can do whatever I want to do. Mm-hmm. Now, the other part, when we say show up, we work on two things on our team: lead generation and education. Okay? Lead generation is huge because we don't buy one. We sold 1,100 homes in 3 years with about 20 agents, give or take, maybe 20 to 30. We didn't buy them one lead, which means we got to help them produce. You heard Nate say, how do they fish on their own? So we got to help you produce. Well, to produce on your own, you have to do work. You have to show up and do work.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So now we've mastered showing up, which sounds silly, but we've mastered it, and we got really good at this. We sold a lot of homes, and now I'm being told that I need to grow a team, or at least I just think that's how I'm going to have my exit plan. So now I get in and I have a team. Well, I show up and I sell a lot of homes, but for some reason, the 19 other people I'm struggling to help with, and now I've got some of my own barriers as the leader, and that's, Nate, where you come into, at least for this particular question. What are the habits that I've formed that are bad when it comes to leading my team that I need to break?
Okay. So this is a very loaded question.
Yep.
And we said it earlier. Okay. Moving from production to people is the hardest thing that you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
is it possible I shouldn't do that? Is it not for everybody?
No, not at all. It's not for everyone at all, right? It takes a certain individual. And if you have a heart to give, and you truly want to help people, right? And impact people and teach them, hey, I had a lot of success in this business, and therefore I want to give back. I believe that that's the right way to start a team. Okay. If you're trying to start it for, say, just to make additional money, because of ego and status, and you're trying to increase yourself, I don't believe that that's the right answer. Okay.
And you'll probably either it won't be successful, or it's going to be a lot of heartache while you're doing it.
Exactly. And so if your heart's in the right place, I would say, hey, you build a team around impact and leverage. And so when I look at habits, there's a phrase, if it doesn't duplicate, it doesn't matter. Okay. And so we were working with an individual that we coached just yesterday, right? Long-term solopreneur, did very, very well on his own, and it was just him to work with and manage. But when you start building a team and you have all of these other people, you have to think less about yourself and more about everyone else. And you have to have structure in your life. And if you don't have structure, it's just, if it doesn't duplicate, it doesn't matter, right? And so you need structure, you need routine, and a lot of free spirits that are out there really struggle with that. And that's how they were able to get it done, right? Like, I made this deal this way this time. I did it 1,000 different ways, 1,000 other times. Like, that doesn't.
So hold on, let me pause you for a second. So if I'm trying to teach people how to do this and lead by example, but I'm doing things that aren't scalable, then I'm actually hurting the team's capacity to growth because I just keep on reverting back to making the quick buck the way I know how.
Exactly.
Did I get that right?
Yep.
That is true across the board. I will tell you, That does not stop at real estate. That is in all businesses that I've been a part of.
Yep. Life.
This is fascinating. We're out of time. Where do we find you guys?
ChevironCoaching.com.
It's not at cousinsofcoaching.com. Hold on. I'm going to see this. Cousins of Coaching.
He's going to get the domain name.
Our copyright attorney's on it right now. He might.
It's open, boys. By the time this podcast comes out, if you don't have that, I will. All right. Well, if you want to find us, you can find us at realproducersmag.com. Please email us at podcast@realproducersmag.com for nominations, people you want to see on the show, how to make the show better, and also if you want to give us money or something like that, go to podcast@realproducersmag.com. Guys, you are awesome. Can't wait to have you on the show again.
Thank you.
Thank you.